everybody, Lead Speed here. Alright, so yeah, had to post that little short video, and if you guys don't know what I'm talking about and you actually skipped it over, I'll link it of course, but mainly it was, you can almost call it an introduction to my weird take on Tidal Mermail Atlantean, or Merlantean I guess, if you, as you would call it, but I don't know, like, I'm pretty sure some people in their minds were thinking, what the heck was this guy on? He's running the bad Mermail. He's running Abyss Hild in the deck. I mean, you know, Abyss Dine's okay. You know, Abyss Goon's awesome, obviously, even though she wasn't standard before. And then, you know, Abyss Lynn's just broken, probably the most broken recruiter in the game. But you're running Abyss Hild, probably the worst one. I don't know. Like, some might. I do agree, out of the mermaids in the archetype, she is the worst one, but to be honest, I mean, there are a couple reasons why I was running her in the deck. Well, even though I was running one copy, so it's not like she really got in the way or anything, but there's a couple reasons for it. Even when it comes to, like, you know, some basic combos with the deck, like let's say I'm using something like Abyss Tias, I pitch Abyss Hild. If she's in my hand, I pitch her to the graveyard, search for Oshabyss, and then I can use Abyss Hild's effect to summon Oshabyss from my hand. So, again, that doesn't use up my normal summon either, so I can still do a normal summon if I want to. But, I mean, it doesn't really change anything, but, like, there's one other reason why I'm using Abyss Hild. Not because, you know, you can use Tidal, you can go send her from your hand, or if you're using his effect, you could send a monster from your deck to the graveyard. So if you send something like Abyss Hild from your deck to the graveyard, you can use her effect because it doesn't matter how she goes to the graveyard. She could be in the hand, she could be in the deck, she could be Xyz material, wherever. She just has to go to the graveyard, and she does not miss the timing either. So I mean, I'll admit, like, you probably, I'm probably the only person who's running Abyss Hild right now, but yeah, like, out of like all due seriousness, I mean, you know, some may run Abyss Dine, you know, some don't, and then Abyss Osha, not the most practical, but honestly, with this deck, I mean, I've been doing research, I mean, I take a few things, I had a few twists of my own or whatever, and then we got this weird mash of a deck. That's got like 30 something monsters. Yeah, this has a lot of monsters in it, and it's pretty crazy, I gotta admit. Like, the synergy is actually pretty good. I mean, you might think, oh well, that's a lot of monsters, you're running at least 30 plus. Well, the thing is, when you look at those freaking 50 to 60 card Mermail Atlantean decks or whatever, like, even though that's a whole lot of cards, the deck does so much searching and deck thinning that you can kind of get away with it. Now, although I wasn't in 100%, I'm still not 100% in agreement with like 60. I mean, I could understand, like, you know, 45 or 50 cards. I mean, you can get away with it, because if you're running like Genex Undyne, you do not want to draw your controllers, and you have a less likely chance of drawing the controller if you're running a whole lot of cards. And I mean, if you just happen to draw both controllers when you're running that many cards, then, you know, you just got really unlucky. So yeah, I mean, and just some weird things like that. I mean, people do some very weird things with Mermail Atlantean decks, or Mono-Mermail, as you guys had been calling it for like months and months now, ever since, you know, Billy Brake and Jeff Jones put that build together and displayed it or whatever. I mean, I still have the deck profile of like when I posted the deck before it became a thing or whatever, but like when I did the deck profile, I mainly was all on, you know, using more Mermails, because, you know, at the time the Genex Undyne variant was the most prevalent because Abyss Tias wasn't out, and when I did the deck profile, he was out, but I remember people were kind of skeptical about him at first. But then, you know, like, I figured he had potential, but it was just about finding space and would I really run more than one. And the thing is, I ended up having to use more than that, mainly because, well, you can't search for him. So, I mean, that was kind of the problem with Abyss Spawning. You can't search for him, but the thing is, Abyss Tias was just like, drop any water monster you want and then summon it from your hand. And I mean, the OCG's got him now too, so I mean, there's like a build or bit, I guess, on Shriek, which I guess I can link, but I mean, I don't really look at Shriek that much. Like, I sometimes go there. I mainly go to see like what's topping like their local tournaments or like large scale events. And you know, it's mainly been like the elemental dragons, or dragon rulers as we call them, as they are now in the TCG, or incarnate dragons in the OCG. But it's mainly been them and like, you know, Prophecy, and there was like one Tidal Mermail build or whatever. And honestly, like, the only thing I took from there, and it was something that I kind of forgot to do, was the addition of Fishborg Archer. Now, I have used Fishborg Archer in the deck, even though like maybe it wasn't that common to run. But the thing is, like, Archer's actually it's actually pretty good if played right. Mainly because like it actually synergizes with a lot of the deck, especially late in the game, because you can go for like big pushes, or you can even go for like a quick Black Rose Dragon play potentially. You know, if you summon like a Bespike from your deck with like Abysslin, you know, off of Sphere or whatever, and then you summon Archer, and then you go make a Black Rose, nuke the field, especially if the opponent's put so much stuff on the board. And that's kind of this format in general. I mean, you're going to be mainly putting a lot of cards out. But yeah, I mean, with this whole Tidal Mermail Atlantean thing, there's actually it's even more insane than even I anticipated. I mean, I thought it would be a nice way to adapt, and you know, a lot of people have been talking about it, and then, you know, I was like curious as to like, how's this gonna, like, I know I've used them before, like very early on, but I mean, I never before did I really tap into his full power, the full power of Tidal in the Mermail Atlantean deck. And then, you know, later on, it was like Oshia came out. And then I realized that, you know what? I could probably get away with running some of these other cards in the deck, because they kind of synergize with Tidal. And what I mean is, like, when you using stuff like Oshia and Tias is like amazing. And the thing is, like, with what you mainly do with the deck, I mean, since you're running a lot of monsters, you're mainly gonna be spamming him out if you draw him into him or whatever. I mean, you're thinning your deck out so much that, I mean, it doesn't even matter half the time. So I don't know. It's kind of weird, but to be honest, I mean, that's just how it is, honestly. And yeah, I mean, for me to be running one of the bad mermails, it just means a couple of things. One, I'm honestly, you know, even though the deck's supposed to be very explosive, I mean, you know, I want to have fun with this deck too, because, you know, I've had fun with it for a while. And, you know, just being able to use more of the mermails, even the bad ones, is kind of cool, because, I mean, it's not something that you could say every day or whatever, but I don't know. I've been saying that a lot too, but no, I mean, I know that on the ban list or whatever, they're gonna get hit like pretty hard. I mean, I know that in OCG it was like this deck before, you know, Dragon Rulers and, you know, Prophecy pretty much like got overpowered and stuff like that. But, you know, like I was already thinking, like, you know, something like Abyss Sphere would get him on the ban list or something like that, but I don't know, like, it's just one of those things where, like, if you're still playing the deck, I mean, you know, people have already gotten rid of their Mermail stuff, you know, to play the Dragon Ruler deck or to pick up on Prophecy, because, you know, those are technically among the best decks of the format, and not Mermail anymore, because, you know, it used to be Mermail before, you know, Dragon Rulers and Prophecy became overpowered and stuff like that. But, you know, the way I see it, I think they still are a very good deck. I mean, I don't think we can disagree on that. I mean, maybe they're not as good as Dragon Ruler, but, you know, there's still a lot of crazy plays the deck can do now that Tidal's been introduced into the game. And honestly, that's another thing I want to talk about involving those Dragon Rulers. Like, when they came out or whatever, it was mainly the 4 dragons. Now, some people were talking about, you know, using each of the dragons separately within their own decks around that attribute. Like you run Redox and like Earth-based decks, like you could use it in like gadgets or psychics. You can even run it in Karakuri, and one of the most annoying decks I used to run into a lot that ran Redox was Scrabs. I'm not even kidding, guys. Scrabs. It was Scrabs is one of the most annoying decks I ran into that ran Redox. Mainly because of the fact that they had that Scrab Golem, that level 5 dude, that lets you like bring back a Scrab monster that's level 4 or lower from the graveyard. And then you have Redox, which you to pitch it and another Earth monster to use a secondary effect to bring them back. And then you bring back like Scrab Goblin and make another Scrab Dragon. And Scrab Dragon, oh my god, Scrab Dragon is really busting in that deck. I mean, you thought he was pretty good in other decks, but he's even crazier in that deck just because when he dies, you get a Scrab monster back. You can get back Scrab Golem, and then you can use his effect to bring back like Scrab Goblin and then go for another Synchro. It's like, are you serious? The recursion of Redox is ridiculous. And I mean, you could just use him as a wall too if you just need to stall. He's got a 3k ass. And, you know, that's something I really should not be talking about, but it's true. I mean, you can even just stall for a turn. And honestly, it kind of makes me wonder, like, what did Konami make these guys for? Those Dragon Rulers? Like, what were they made for? Were they made to be their own deck? I mean, you kind of could. I mean, when it was just the 4 dragons, I mean, people were running like, you know, Dimensional Alchemist and stuff like that, you know, Kwakimeo Drago, because you can like swarm the field and then bring out Kwakimeo Drago and just go ham because they couldn't drop Gores, couldn't drop Trag, they couldn't drop Battle Fader. The only thing that could stop you was like Swift Scarecrow, which the Dragon Ruler deck like mains a lot of. So it's kind of weird. Like when I look at this whole Tidal Mermail Atlantean thing and how Tidal gives such a huge boost to that deck, and then you could do so much with it now. And I mean, I'm running like unconventional cards, but honestly, that's just because that's just how I am. I mean, when I put decks together, I mean, some are standard, and then there's gonna be like those questionable choices where you're like, the heck is he running this for? And honestly, like, they work. Like, I've made them work. Will I say will it work for everybody? No, because like it's mainly going to be working for the person who thought of like the combos, even with the bad mermail or whatever. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this insanity, because like when it comes with the whole Dragon Rules thing, like what were they made for? I mean, Tidal was made for like water decks, but was it just that, or were they just meant to be in their own deck? So let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you guys later. So peace out, guys.